It seems like all you're hearing about right now in the news is recession this, or we're in a housing bubble, or, possibly just a transition, or, the housing market's going to crash. There are a lot of things that are going around, especially in the headlines on news channels, and it's tough to sort out what's really happening. So let me go ahead. I'm going to talk about the real estate market cycle and just go over the general feeling of the housing market right now. What's up, everybody? My name's Rob Schou and I'm with EXP Realty here in Southern Maryland. If this is your first time on our channel, make sure you go ahead, you scroll down and you click the subscribe button, click the little bell so you're notified every single time we put out new content about moving to Southern Maryland. Also, if you're looking to move to Southern Maryland or you know someone that is, use that contact information below. Call me, text me, and we'd be happy to help you make that move so much easier. And last but not least, you can scroll down to the first comment, click on the link that's down there, and it's going to schedule a Zoom meeting one-on-one with me where we can talk about your home buying needs. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Like I said, there's so many different headlines going around right now about whether it's a real estate market transition, a crash, a boom, or not a boom, obviously, a bust right now. There's a lot of different things going on, and there's so many different factors that are kind of going into play with that, whether it be the recession that technically occurred about a week ago, or it be interest rates. There's just so many different things at play, and it can get confusing at times. And I wanted to go over kind of what a normal real estate market cycle looks like and kind of where we are in our market in Maryland currently. The first thing I want to talk to you about is about a real estate cycle. Now, the best people to really kind of get a feel of what a real estate market cycle is from property investors. So I have this website where it talks about these, the market cycle itself. It's called Fortune Builders, and they're all big into, buying property and building wealth through real estate, whether it be actual physical properties or REITs, which is real estate investments. So just different ways to do it, but they're always people that have their finger on the pulse of the market. So what is a real estate cycle? You can see right here, and this is the main part I want you to focus on. There are 4 phases to a real estate cycle. So the first one is recovery, expansion, hypersupply, and then recession. So kind of thinking about where we are right now, we saw a recovery from the 2008 housing market crash. We've been seeing that recovery slowly go, and then a huge expansion happen, obviously, in the last few years. Now, we're not to the point of a hypersupply. So a lot of people are confused because, we're technically, our economy technically is in a recession because we had 2 straight declines in GDP, but we never had that hypersupply. So a lot of people are saying, yeah, we're going into a crash or this or that, or the bubble's bursting, but we're missing one of the most important components of this cycle of a crash, of a slowdown, is that we just don't have the supply to meet even the low demand that we have right now. So really understanding that cycle, that real estate cycle that we see on a regular basis throughout history, it's easier to kind of see why you want to pump your brakes when you're saying we're going for a crash. It most likely looks we're going into transition, and honestly, it's a transition that we haven't seen yet. This is really new territory for a lot of people. So if someone is out there saying, 100%, I know market cycles, this is what's going to happen, they don't. This is really, really new territory. High inflation, still a somewhat strong, job growth and stuff like that, plus high interest rates. That's a weird combination that's going to lead to some interesting times down the road. All right, so now we're going to jump to one of my favorite things. It's those Redfin like market overview articles. This is for the national level. We'll go over Maryland really quick after it as well. Now, if you look at your screen right now, you can see that there's been an uptick in the amount of early interest in homes as the mortgage rates have fallen. So while we have seen a definite dry up of demand over the last few months with those mortgage rates going as high as 6.25%, with mortgage rates starting to fall a little bit more, and this one quotes it, I believe, down here as 4.99. I can tell you as of this recording, on August 6th, it's more like mid 5s. But with that slowdown of interest rates, it's been more demand starting to show up again, which again kind of leads to that thing I was talking about with the market cycle. We're just not seeing that hyper supply, and with more demand, it'll be less supply out there. So I don't see that hyper supply coming anytime soon, especially since builders can't even get enough work to really outpace the demand they have as well. This is interesting right here, and I always talk about, I run Google ads and stuff like that, of course, for my personal realtor page and all that kind of stuff, and home buying and home sellers. This is really interesting right here. Now, while the searches for homes for sale is down 24% from a year earlier, it is up 9% from late May. So again, it's definitely slowed from what it was, but it's definitely starting to pick up pace from earlier this spring or earlier this summer and spring. These statistics right here also kind of support that as well. So you can just see it talks about how just those different indices that Redfin uses to talk about active buyers in the market, active demand, have all trended in a downward direction. And we can see it's still cooling off too. So even looking at all the other stuff they had talked about here, median home sale price was up 8% year over year. A lot of times over the last few years, it's been a double-digit increase compared to year over year. This is the slowest rate growth since July of 2020. So we're really starting to see that stabilization. See that stabilization and drop right here. In most years, you can definitely tell that when it gets to this summer point, it kind of levels out. We have the dip in the fall, and then it starts picking back steam up. We have a dip in that fall time, and then it starts picking up a little bit of steam when we go into the holiday season. But right here, you can see that just sharp drop. And this June timeframe coincides with some of the highest mortgage rates we've seen in years. And you can tell that demand just fell, and that demand is driving those higher prices. So the prices fell as well. Now this right here, and I've talked about it in every single housing market video that I've done, this is a big one. So if you look right now, 8% of listings had a price drop. I think it has to do with demand. I think it has to do with, supply and demand issues. But I also think a lot of people got out in front of the market. They thought this increase that they were going to see, or that they were having double-digit increases of home properties, was going to continue, and it just didn't. And so they overshot the market. They priced it too high, and because of the lack of demand, those properties sat, and they had to bring down the price to actually sell the home. So this is a huge jump compared to previous years. And this kind of supports it here. If you look through these, this is the biggest amount of price drops since Redfin has been keeping this data in 2015. And it's just a sharp increase from 2020 and 2021. So all signs are really pointing to a slowdown and a stabilization in the housing market nationwide. Let's go ahead and jump into what Maryland looks like, just so you can get a good idea of what you're up against when you're out there either trying to sell your home or looking to buy a home. All right, so here's the Maryland housing market. We're going to go through the main metrics again like we always do. You can see that the median home sales price has just been staying kind of level. We haven't seen a huge rate of growth like we saw in 2022, like in 2021 where we saw some really good growth. It's just flattened out right here, which is pretty typical if you look in previous years in June and July that we start seeing that flattening out. And now there are, of course, different metro areas that are seeing huge growth compared to other areas. Reisterstown, Annapolis Neck, Westminster, Cumberland, Woodlawn, all of those are seeing big, well into the double-digit growth. While the buyer demand is still low and it's still down, the supply of homes is still low. So it's 10.9% less for sale than previous years. We got less than 10,000 homes, newly listed homes in Maryland, and that's almost 17% less than the previous year. And then we only have 1 month supply. And I think it's actually a little less than that right now too. All right, so you can see here, this is the demand side of it. So before 2020, a lot of people were not paying over list price. You can see there's the list price line right there. And as 2020 came and 2022 came, people were regularly paying over list price for homes, and you can see that it really peaked right around May of 2022, and we're starting to see that come down again. Now, it is 0.1% over last year, but it definitely is starting to come down more compared to previous years too. All right, so hopefully this information was helpful. Hopefully this housing market update really helped you get an idea of what it currently looks like nationwide in Maryland. And if you have any questions or need any help when you're looking to buy a house in Southern Maryland, make sure you reach out to me. Call me, text me, and I'd be happy to help you make those decisions. Also, scroll down to the first comment, click on the link, and it'll schedule a Zoom meeting one-on-one with me where we can talk about your home buying needs. And last but not least, if you haven't yet, make sure you click the subscribe button, click the little bell so you're notified every single time we put out new content. Hope to see you on the next video.